Hello.
It's not just that.
Okay, tell me.
When it hits halfway, that's what then he's, all right, go ahead.
Hello. Thank you for joining us. I'm Daniela, and I'm here tonight with my good friend Jeremy McDonald, a psychic medium, life coach, healer, amazing human being. So thank you for joining us tonight. So Jeremy, can you give it?
Hi Daniela, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
This is Daniela's first time with the condenser mic in my studio. So I'm good, how are you?
I'm actually good. We had a fun dinner tonight, so thank you very much for having me over.
We did, I was gonna cook for her and then I was lazy. I ordered pizza.
It was great. That was some great pizza. And a New Yorker saying that's really
That is really good.
So Jeremy's an amazing person on many levels, very talented, huge heart. And I kind of think a lot of your gifts come because of the heart, your heart being open, and you came here. To me, it seems like you help everyone that's around you, whether you intend to or not.
Well, thank you very
You're
much.
welcome.
I really appreciate it. Yeah, so I don't know what to say. I mean, I just want to help people. You know, that's my biggest thing. And have fun. That's how you and I talk about.
I love that, yeah.
You and I talk about that. And just, when I realized that life was about laughter and fun, that really is contagious and helps people right there. So I think that's really, you know, when we do that, we really help people a lot. So, but yeah,
Would you say, for me, that you just said that, I find it very freeing. It's like learning a key.
Mm-hmm.
That it's really about having a good time. We chose to be here, right?
Yeah.
But it's our choice whether to have a good time or not.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what life is all about. This is about choice point.
Mm-hmm.
And people get mad when I say things like, well, I mean, you can choose to be happy or not. And
they do.
And they get mad. And it's like, yeah, of course. And they're like, you haven't had my life. Well, no, I've had Jeremy's life. And so,
yes.
And in Jeremy's life, I'd had a lot of hard times and times when I wasn't happy and times when I was pissed off and all that kind of stuff. And those are my choices. And it's okay to admit that there are my choices. And that sometimes I still get pissed off. And those are my choices.
Are you saying that you're human?
Yeah. Yeah, this whole thing.
So like you lose your temper and stuff.
Yeah,
not always
we were just talking about that earlier, about losing my temper recently with people I care about. And then when you care about them, then you're like, man, why did I do that? I love that person. Yeah, of course. And so it's one of those things. So yeah, I say, well, I like to have fun, and there's times where I'm not having fun. But balance. Then, yeah, it's a balance, and it helps you understand who you are. So I was just talking with my friend Virginia this morning. She goes, hey, listen, how we have a contrast and how we know what is fun is because we experience the opposite.
So true. So that, don't you think that's where they come from when I say be grateful for everything?
Yeah.
And don't judge it like good, bad, stuff like that, because it brings clarity.
Yep.
You're like, oh, I really didn't enjoy that, so let me try this. Yep. Duality.
Well, and that's the one thing that people want to like get rid of, all that stuff that you don't like and all those people that annoy you and get on your nerves. And that doesn't mean you put up with toxic people. It just means that sometimes you have to experience those things so you can fully understand who you are. And the shamanism always says you have to walk through your darkness before you can find your light. And so that's the key thing, is that, and then you alchemize yourself. When you bring darkness and light together, they become whole. So.
I was just gonna say, I feel at this point, it's not about getting rid of it at all.
You can't. You can try.
But I think another different angle, I know where I'm standing now, I feel love for the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And even if, just say we may not enjoy certain things with people or situations, and that's okay too, right?
Yeah.
It's all okay. Like, don't be so hard on yourself. Like, even when you lose your temper, I think it's fruitless. Don't get me wrong, I feel it. Like, I don't like it hurting people, but I also learned, don't beat yourself up. We're human, let it go. I think it's better to love ourselves and let it go and just apologize, own your actions.
Yeah, and learn from it.
Learn from it. Like, that's another thing. People are quick sometimes to say sorry, but it's a lip service.
Yeah.
When you really do have a regret, like you didn't like something that you did, I think the biggest thing that you could possibly do is change it and not do it again.
Mhm.
You know, you don't, because that's a lack of love to keep repeating the same patterns that hurt you or someone else.
Well, can we talk about that just for a second? Because I was thinking, when I'm thinking about that, when I think about like things that you've done, like say you and I get into a fight and we yell at each other and we walk away from it. I think the important part is, learn from it and don't do it again. However, I think what's more important than that is to learn what was internally going on in you that caused you to be so upset. And that's the key thing.
Do you mean like the trigger point?
Yeah, the trigger point. And when you find out that trigger, then you probably won't do it again. And so then
you'll understand it.
You'll understand it. It's like, you know, my business partner, I've cleared the air. We have such a great relationship, but until we talked, we didn't understand each other's trigger points. And so, and then we both had some major healings. And so, and how many people we've had that, like how many relationships, intimate relationships have we ended because we didn't know that, and later on you realize that and you still care about that person, you're like, but it's too late.
Yeah.
And
it's
so,
like almost a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
But it does take a certain awareness to realize that instead of being like, let's move on, you know what I mean? Because it does seem like, where are you on the chart, so to speak? Because that is like a normal thing. I think as you're growing, you just want to step away from that. But to really be able to love someone unconditionally, like that's a key. Doesn't mean you have to have somebody toxic in your life, but to just have love and compassion for them still. I call it, I love you, but over there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I agree, communication, if we were more open and honest with communication, I've seen so many healings in different parts of my life and different relationships from just being honest and owning it and saying, I'm so sorry that I did that. This is what was going on in me. And you have to be, that's the other thing, committed to being honest with yourself. I think that's step one, because if you can't be honest about what you're feeling, how can I be honest with someone else?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and the thing is if you're not honest with yourself, you can't be honest with somebody else.
It's like, you don't even know.
It's like people say, oh, I want to be in love. And I'm like, well, love yourself first. And and if you can't love yourself,
then you can't.
Then no, you can't love somebody else. It's impossible. And I've had people blow up on me. I mean,
because they don't want to hear it.
I literally told that to somebody once, and they blew up on me on social media, and then I blocked them. And like 9 months later, they created another account just to come and tell me off, because they had been in a relationship now for 4 months and it was great and wonderful and all that other kind of stuff.
And you were wrong.
And I was wrong. And I just thought, obviously, you're such an amazing person and that you're totally not angry at all.
Right.
You know, so it just kind of like, and I just blocked that particular Facebook again, because, right, it's like, this is another funny story. I mean, I've done these, by the way, I'm telling you these stories and I've done them myself too. So, and I've been not awake and not aware of what I'm responding to. But there was a gentleman years ago, and I was sitting at a little store called Mystical Sense in Tampa. Well, actually, at the Nova Sasa. And the owner there has this sitting area with couches, and it's really kind of cozy. I'm sure you know there, Pearl.
Yeah.
And so we're all sitting there. And funny thing about Pearl is I always tell her that I helped make the paper mache tree in the middle of the store, and all I did is roll one newspaper. And my mom and a guy named Mike and Pearl spent hours working on it while I was just jibber jabbering. And so I'm like, I helped make that tree, and she just rolls her eyes at me. And so, anyways, but long story short, we're in the store. This gentleman's looking at me, and he's like, I have no fear whatsoever. And I'm like,
wow.
I'm like, yeah, you have fear. Oh no, I'm a Vietnam War vet. I have no fear. And then I was like, okay, I've learned in my life. I've learned in my life, you just say, okay. So an hour later, he starts going off on the fact that this person almost kills him and his wife and his grandkids, and how pissed off he was. And I'm like, wait, hold on. Can we just pause right there for a second? Why were you so pissed off? He's like, well, because they almost killed my wife and my grandkids. I said, so you mean you were afraid that they might get hurt? And he paused and he looked at me and he was like, you could just tell the you're an asshole look on his face. But he got it. And I was like, so what you're saying is that you fear for your grandchildren and your wife's life, rightfully so, because you love them.
Right.
So that was what we're attached to and what we love. We are afraid of whatever. So it really comes down to losing it. It's about attachment. And that's okay. We're human beings. I mean, like I've been doing a lecture over the last year called Spiritual Alchemy, Activating Life Body. And the first question I ask is, what is your level of attachment? And I know that we all have attachment. I mean, unless you were the Buddha and went and sat on a tree for like a long time and gave up a whole bunch of things, or you were Jesus or whatever, or one of these ascended masters, you have fear and you have attachment. And so those are just things that, and the answer is, if you're in this flesh body, you have attachment. And so there's things that you're going to do. It's called being human beings. And so when we talk about being more Christ-like or more Buddha-like, it means that we're working towards it. It doesn't mean we have to be perfect. And there's a book out there by a guy named Topher Morrison. He lives here in Tampa, actually. And he wrote a book that says, stop striving for perfection and settle for excellence. And it's very powerful because we spend all this time trying to be perfect. And guess what? You're not perfect. I mean, my house was a disaster area before Daniela came over last night. I had to clean it because I knew she was coming. And then Damien walks in, my friend Damien walks in and he goes, you gotta clean this before. Ew, this is gross. It smells. Daniela can't come in here like this. I was like, hush. Busy guy here.
True. And I'm not judging, like whatever. Thank you for the pizza.
Yeah, there you go.
But I wanted to get back. Okay, when we're talking about like being the Buddha, like I do think people get caught up in that. But I also think, what about the bliss of realizing you're okay? You know what I mean? Like step by step going, maybe evolving, growing to what you, right? Just say if you didn't want to smoke cigarettes anymore and then you stopped, like, oh, I didn't today, like feel good about that. You know what I mean? Whatever positive step, feel good about it, own it. Like, because I think too many times people are like, oh, but I'm not that, I'm not good like you. Anybody ever come across that? What do you, like, oh, I'm not like you?
Listen, I'll admit this to your listeners, because if you read my book, which your listeners probably haven't, but first chapter of the book says I'm a recovering crystal meth addict, and so
I love this guy,
and a sex addict, and it actually wasn't the drug I was addicted to; it was the actual sex and the crazy things that I would do. And so, and with that being said, I wrote the book is called Peace Be Still, and so I wrote that in the book, and I relapsed after I wrote the book.
Wow.
And so a few times, not a lot, but just a few times, because in my mind I thought it's not that big of a deal. So you have this demon inside of you, and can I cuss?
Yeah.
Okay. And I call it the motherfucker.
I love it.
It'll twist your mind. And so I'm admitting this to you that I got a relapse, but we've all had relapse. And you've gone out, you've lost 100 pounds, and then you gain 50 pounds back. You go out and shop or gamble or, whatever, you masturbated too much, or it doesn't really matter. To fill the void. And so, and it's been something I've learned from each time. So you're talking about, so I relapsed and so while I'm in this state of being high, I'm like, well, if I'm here, I might as well sit here and process through it, the actual stuff. Why do I want to do this? Why did I want to do this? Why did I have this relapse? And then I realized there's a false sense of divineness, and so it's escape, because the truth is you're all divine, and there is a divine part of you. And so you're in sin isn't what we think it is. It's turning your back on yourself, the divineness that is you. So you go and you're constantly saying, I am not that. And then you go and you do a drug, whether it be meth or cocaine or ecstasy or drinking too much or whatever, the
Just
bliss you
really
get out
doesn't
of eating,
matter.
whatever addiction you have, it gives you this false sense of divineness. And that's the wrong type of divine. So trust me, I've gotten more highs off of real spirit energy. Like we were just at a psychic fair a couple weeks ago, and I had to be like, can we go get Applebee's because I need the ground.
Yeah,
And I was I was in this spiritual bliss, and that was a better bliss than I've ever had on any drug. And so, and I'm telling you that because I made a positive out of something that was really damaging to my body. And so that's one of those things that, and then the bad decisions you make when you drink and you get too drunk and like all that kind of stuff, or get to do those drugs. But my point is that it was perfect because it allowed me to grow and be like, okay, but it's the spiritual high that I want, not this one that is very physical and healthy. So you can turn anything into a positive, and like Daniela said earlier, and then you learn from it and you don't do it again. So
I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I just want, one of the things that you hit, it doesn't matter what it is that you think makes you feel better in this moment, but whatever it is, even if it's shopping, I don't care. Whatever the addiction is, the underbelly is how bad you feel once that high is over, whatever the high is. And when it's and then you still make bad choices, even if you're not high, because you kind of are angry and hate yourself. And like, at least for me, I used to punish myself. You know what I mean? I wasn't nice. It was the opposite of self-love. But when you have the spiritual high, just say, we may not always stay up here, right?
Yep.
You know, but you never like are angry. Like when you come down, like you're like, wow, that was really an awesome meditation. Or when I was connected and working, that just felt amazing. And you know you can get back in there. That's the other, like in a very natural way, you can get back to that high.
You can, and I want to do a quick exercise here in a second, but there is there's something I want to talk about too. When we have high stress times, let's say something happens, like you lose a family member, a divorce happens, somebody breaks your heart, you lose your home, whatever, it doesn't matter. We do what are called default things that we go back to, and they may be damaging or hurtful or bad, not good for us. We go to those default things because they're comfortable, because we're
looking for some form of comfort.
We're looking for some form of comfort, and it could be like I go out and overeat or whatever. It doesn't really matter what it is. We go into this default. I call them default behaviors. We have a choice right then there, because there's a story going on, and I wish I had the graph in front of me, but there is a path to an emotional response. First thing that happens is stimulus. So whatever, loss of home, divorce, somebody says something mean to you, your partner that says they love you, say, I think you're ugly or whatever. It doesn't really matter. Some stimulus happens. The next stage is story starts to form in your head. And that is victim or poor me or whatever. And then the third step is the emotions start to build. And the fourth step is you start to actually act on those emotions. And so in the story forming area, you can change it. You can say, before you go into those default type of emotions or default behaviors, you can actually say, I'm not a victim. They're just an asshole. And they said that because of whatever they've got going on inside of them that hurts them or upsets them or whatever. I'm not going to buy that contract from them. You know,
you're not going to own it. You're not
I'm not going to take it in. And by the way, I am not ugly. I am beautiful and wonderful and whatever. And then the emotional stimulus goes into something different. And so that's the changing of the story. And incidentally, my business is called Storytelling Alchemist. And it's because you can transmute your story like that. It's that powerful. And so what I would like to do is an exercise.
I would love it.
So I would like everybody just that's watching kind of get comfortable very quick and relax just for a second. Take a deep breath in. It's not a meditation, but just take a deep breath in because we all need to breathe more. And then I want you to think about something that always eats away at you, like something that always gets you, like it's a trigger point. And as you kind of feel that emotions, swell up, I want you to say to it, stop in your mind. This is all in your mind and your heart. Stop. And hear it out. Say to that emotion, what is it you're getting so upset about? This is all in your mind. You have to pretend with me for just a second. You have to be kindergartners, because kindergartners can play like this. Yeah. And so then once you do that and you start to talk to it and listen to it, because that's your inner child that's wanting to talk to you. That's your, whatever you want to call it. It's your inner voice that's wanting to talk to you. And it's been wanting to talk to you for a long dang time. That's why you're reacting without thinking, because you've never given it a chance. You've never taken any time. You've always been like, brush it under the rug and that kind of stuff. And you're always telling your inner world, shut up, I don't want to hear it. Or I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to feel this. So listen to it. So once you listen to it, let it flow, let it talk to you. And then reach in and grab that emotion and embrace it and say, I'm so sorry that I didn't listen to you before. That will never happen again. And if it does happen again, I'll work hard on fixing it. And I love you. And who are you saying you love you to? You're saying it to yourself. Your inner world wants you to love it really bad. And then you let it go. Feel that?
That's excellent.
Yeah, it's powerful. And you can do that. And I would challenge you guys to do this every day. And even if you don't want to do that, go look in the mirror and tell yourself you loved yourself eye to eye every day, at least once. And I'm changing my wording now from meditation. I'm not going to tell people to meditate anymore. I'm going to tell people to just hang out with themselves for 5 minutes and breathe. So what I want you guys to do is 5 minutes every day. I just want you to sit down on your couch, grab your coffee or your tea or whatever you drink, water. And I want you to just hang out with yourself for 5 minutes and breathe. And then what you do is you process through all those emotional triggers you got through the day in that 5 to 10 minutes. And then you let them go. You let your inner world talk, and then you let it go and you love it. You apologize, all that kind of stuff.
Can we talk a little bit about, like you were talking about 5 minutes?
Yeah.
When we were at dinner, you had mentioned how you like being around people, and I do too, but we both love our alone time.
Yeah.
Because when he's saying that 5 minutes, that means put your phone down. Don't have any outside music, right? Like I like it to be still.
Yep.
Because there's just such a beauty, and it's very powerful to be still. And I think with our culture or society, it's like the opposite. Something in your face all the time. And we've gotten unprogrammed to be still and quiet, and we're running, people are so confused. They don't stop, they don't take that break. They always feel the need to be connected. I purposely this morning left my phone on airplane mode for like 2 hours after I got up so I could meditate, enjoy the coffee, enjoy my puppies. I couldn't tell you how happy I was because the work will always be there, right?
Yeah.
There's going to be people sending you emails and texts and messenger. It's overwhelming. And yesterday I started my day like that. I made the mistake of taking it off. I was like, boom, like I didn't get to meditate until like the evening. And I don't like starting my day that way.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's important to take that time for yourself, whether it be in the morning or in the evening or something.
Both is awesome.
Both is awesome. I mean, and one of the things I've started doing is I put my charger from my phone on the other side of the room for me. So I'll actually go and plug it in, and I'll go and sit on the couch and I'll relax. And incidentally, I work on my business every night. And I work a day job, and I also make sure that I do something that is totally vegging out just about every day. Even if it's just 30 minutes, I will watch TV, read a book or something. And everybody, spiritual people are always in judgment. They're all like, oh, I got rid of my TV years ago. I know, because I used to be one of those pretentious people. And then I got a TV. And you know what? I am loving some Disney Plus right now.
Oh, Disney Plus.
And so, and it's one of those things that, hey, you came down here and chose to be down here. Yes, you had a soul purpose, but your soul purpose wasn't to be a stick in the mud. And it was to actually enjoy it. And so I happen to be a Star Wars geek and a Marvel geek. And I want to watch it. And so, and people will be like, yeah, it's
the quality is amazing.
Yeah, it's just like shut up for a second and just go enjoy yourself. And so it's,
Yeah,
that's
I
part
agree
of
with
being
you.
quiet.
Because I started what I call, and I'm maybe not using the right word, selfish, where I want to do something like I'll stop what I'm doing. Like, you know how we've gotten rain a lot or overcast, or we've had sun for 2 days. It's like in the middle of the day, I'll stop what I'm doing because I'm like, my work will be here when the sun goes down. I want to go for a walk in the park. And I just like put everything away and go listen to music, walk through the park. And I'm so joyful doing that. I know it, like little things like that. And that's the other thing I want to talk to you about. Remember how you were saying you can make bad choices? Like I love taking that time for myself, but there was a time I was very confused. I call it my crash and burn. And I got addicted to, like, instead of doing that, like say something like that I knew would hurt me, I would do things like I might have overdid it with meditation. I might have overdid it with my walking and stuff like that. And I didn't know if I was escaping my pain by doing stuff like that. Because I did go to a lot of spiritual classes, like all over Florida and everything. Like I just was trying a lot of experiences. Nothing that was harmful, but I still felt like I was running away from my problems.
Could be, except for the way I'll think about it this way. When you come out with your spirituality, it's like you have children. So do you remember when they were 2 and they would get into everything and mess everything up? They call it the terrible twos. Even then, they were learning when they started learning how to crawl, they would get into everything, and everything has to be baby proof.
Right.
So they don't put it in their mouth. Well, when we first become into our spirituality and we first have an awakening, because by the way, awakenings happen several times. And my first one happened in the 90s. My second major one happened in 2006. Another one happened in 2008. And all they just happened as a series of times. So with that being said, about 2009, I got rid of my television and I got back in 2015. And with that being said, during that time, I did a lot of meditation. And that time was necessary for me to do that. So was I running away a little bit? However, yes. In that sense, and I joke about being pretentious and shut up and all that kind of stuff. But what I'm trying to say is that for a long time, I was just a couch potato and I never did anything. And I was depressed. And so for 5 years, I spent it with my friends and meditations, constantly having fun, went on a book tour, all this kind of stuff. And so it was necessary because it was a new experience. And now it's been, one of my teachers says to me, he goes, there is joy in just the simple things in life too, Jerry. Like even down to washing dishes and cleaning your house and stuff like that. Good. And so it's one of those things where you start to level out, I guess is the best way to say it, because now your experience is like you came out as spiritual, woo, look at me. And so all these things happen and you just then you finally start to level off of other things you like. And I think it's necessary. So. Because
I, like now, sometimes like I'm seeing myself through the people that are walking by, like, because I'll take off my sunglasses and I'm looking at the sun coming through the leaves on the trees. Like I see beauty in everything. Like, it's almost like I do heavy duty drugs. It's like I notice the water droplets on a piece of grass and things. I think that stuff is just stunning. But the good part for me is I see the beauty in everything. So it doesn't really take much to make me happy, I guess. It's not a bad thing to just enjoy everything that's right in front of you and enjoy the moment. Because I think now I didn't even think of that, but I kind of did level off. Like I'm enjoying reading and stuff like that. But just being is pretty awesome. And we did come here to experience life.
Yeah, and then it'll start changing. Like probably about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, I started realizing I wanted more time for myself. And that was the time I wanted to live by myself and all the other kind of stuff. And then I started letting go of a lot of friends just because we had changed. We weren't even the same people anymore. And it didn't mean I didn't care about them. It just means that it was time for, how do you say it? But I loved them over there.
Yeah.
And so now, and slowly but surely, I've been spending more and more time with myself. And as a result, what's been happening is I'm getting a lot more downloads and a lot more things where I'm communing with my soul so to speak.
Exactly.
And so everybody's trying so hard. I guess that's what we're talking about. Everybody's trying so hard. And like even with the Buddha, they overdo the attempting to be more Buddha-like. And incidentally, you have to think about it. Your life is like a cell. And so do you remember when you watched before we had cable and the TV, you'd lose the signal and it'd be all this black and white little dots all over the pixelated little dots?
Yeah, and then it would have like a circle in the middle.
Yeah. So imagine you're one of those black and white little dots and you're just moving around, that little popcorn stuff, just moving around and stuff like that. That's you. You're a cell within that. And if you remember, for those of you that remember, unless you're a millennial, and if you remember that, those little cells move around and they go where they need to go. It doesn't sit there and go, oh, Musa, I need to be more enlightened and be over there. It doesn't say that. It's being pushed by the energy of consciousness, and then it gets where it needs to go when it needs to get there, in the time that it needs to get there, in the divine timing and divine order. And so you don't have to try so hard.
Exactly.
Just allow now the moment, right. And then it'll be in the flow and it'll just happen.
Just let it be, because I think if you try, that's like right, and that's the opposite of it, because it's a relaxing that allows the energy to move. But if it's like I really want to do this, it's like going against the current.
Yeah. So everybody put your hands up like this, push like a pushing against the wall, just push. And now if you just kind of drop them down here and let them in, different feeling, right? Yeah. This when you're being
this is like nice and relaxing.
Yeah, it's nice and relaxing. Just like relax for a second. And so where you can really see that spiritual people are uptight is just go on Facebook. And I've been an internet
Wait a minute,
troll.
what do you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean I've been a professional internet troll for many years. Not really, but I'm just saying. You just watch and people get really upset, and I'm just like, first of all, your beliefs. You don't have to prove to anybody what you believe.
That's right.
You had to prove it to yourself. And if you have to argue with somebody to prove to them and you're getting upset because they don't believe you, then you don't truly believe it. You're not strong in your own belief system. However, if you're strong in your belief system, you don't have to explain it. And interestingly enough, most people that are really solid with who they are, they're open to expanding into new ideas. And that's
because they're not threatened.
They're not threatened by it. Yeah.
And if you realize that you don't know everything, and the other thing is, like, we change, we grow, we evolve. Like something that you might have really believed in, it doesn't fit you anymore.
Yeah, like I told a group of people that were past life therapists years ago, probably like 15 years ago. I said, I mean, are we sure we have past lives? And I'm a metaphysician, and so they're all like, yeah, we have past lives. And I'm like, and are you really sure? And I'm a skeptic, number one, a Greek skeptic, not a naysayer. And skeptic just means I question everything. And so, and I said, well, okay, I'm just thinking about this. So if we're in consciousness and spirit, there is no timeline. Right. It seems to me that past lives is kind of a three-dimensional construct. And so
almost like everything's happening now.
And that has to happen on this little timeline.
Yeah, because
so I said, however, in quantum physics, it tells me that everything is happening right now.
Exactly. So that feels more natural.
Is that really past lives? And then I really pushed them really far because they all believe in these soul contracts. And I'm like, but is it really a contract? I'm like, because if it really is a contract, that means that at some point in the past, I had to sign something and say, hey, guess what, Daniela, we're going to come in here on November 19th of 2019. We're going to do a video at 9 o'clock. Don't forget, remind me. You know what I mean? That's the soul contract based on a third-dimensional construct.
Right.
Now, my friend Justin Deschamps explained it to me, and this is interesting. So the universe is governed by law, natural law. So with that being said, in law, a contract is a construct that pushes momentum of energy. And so with that being said, there is a contract that simultaneously at the same time in consciousness, which is one mega brain, said, Daniela and Jeremy are going to get together and do a video. It just happened like that a second ago. Well, this moment, and then in this moment, the video starts happening. And so that's hard for the three-dimensional mind to understand. However, if you understand that we're all a part of this big mega brain, and within that, you have your own brain and your own understanding and your own consciousness and your own ideas, and your ideas and the movement you do causes the other brain to make other decisions. I know I'm getting really way out here.
No, but I like it because you're talking about the collective consciousness,
Yeah.
but yet our fragment,
Yeah.
like that dot that you were talking about moving around.
The fractal. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So I agree with that because I thought about that with past lives too. Because what feels more natural is everything is happening. It's more the quantum.
Yeah.
Everything's happening now. But people get very defensive when you question their belief system.
I'm not really tired, just saying.
I'm boring the hell out of them.
No.
But don't you find that people feel the need, like it's like, this is my belief. So if I don't believe what you believe, it seems like people feel attacked.
Yeah.
And you're right, the more secure, because what I say to people is like, I don't want to waste my time. You can, like, you don't have to believe what I believe. I don't care. You know, it's all good because everybody has to be at a certain point anyway. Like, we're all doing what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we might be at different stages. But I do know for a fact, like years ago, we have a mutual friend, Hannah, who's passed over. And I remember the first time I was going to her house and I was walking in and she said to me something like, you have God inside of you. We are all God. And now
that sounds like Hannah.
And I'm walking over with my kids and I freeze. And in my head, I hear blasphemy. That's what I hear. This is going back years. And I really didn't move. I froze. And I said to myself, you will one day understand this. Put it away for later. A lot of things that she said to me, I'd say, it was just not, I wasn't there yet. And I'd say, save it for later. No judgment, save it for later. So I would save these things in my brain. And at the perfect time, after she passed away within a year and a half, her wisdom would come out and I would be able to absorb what she was trying to teach me.
Yeah.
So I did somehow log it in a computer brain. But yeah, like that was my old thing, like, I am God. You know what I mean? It was so foreign to me. Like, is that wild?
It is foreign. And so it's funny because my teacher, Reika, had told me that in, I want to say 1998 or something like that. And she said that to me and it must not have registered here because it didn't. And fast forward to like 2005, 2006, somehow I ran across the Bible verse that said it. And I was like, wow, I was like flabbergasted, even though I'd already been told this. So of course I started going out to churches and teaching it. And people were like, no, you are not God. And they would just get really angry with me. And I'm like, well, I mean, it says it in your Bible. So I don't know what to tell you. Now I kind of softened that a little bit because it's like, God to me is goodness over doubt, God. And so they get caught up in the little g and the capital G. And incidentally, this is not an uncommon thing in any other religions because the Mayans have the G on a lot of their texts, which stands for the golden state of mind. And so it's also on the Masonic stuff, and it stands for the golden state of mind. So no different than Buddha and Buddha consciousness and enlightenment or nirvana. So you have these moments of enlightenment where you end pain and suffering. And then you have nirvana, those bliss states, right? Those energetic quickenings that you have energy where you're slain in spirit. And so what is this? It's you working towards becoming in pure light, so to speak. And then when you come pure light, the flesh dissipates. And incidentally, the ascended masters, my belief, there's a lot of compelling evidence that shows that they could go back and forth from light to flesh. And that's basically because you are the Stargate, so to speak. I mean, they have all these things about Stargate and all these technology on the show, but you are the Stargate. You are the Merkaba. And so if you're the Merkaba and you can go from light into flesh, that means you can travel all over this galaxy, this universe. And they say in the Bible, and it happens in a twinkling of an eye. And so why do they say that? Is because literally in an instant you can go from here to Mars.
I believe that.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we're going a little in other directions.
Yeah.
But
that's the way
because we, like, I'm sure you do this too, like, you just think of a location, and it's funny because Hannah once again taught me that too. When she had the near-death experience, she said all that she had to do is think of somebody and she was there. And as a medium, when you connect with them, like they can be anywhere, but we also travel. Like I feel like at night when you're having all these experiences, most of the time I don't think I'm dreaming. Like, you know what I mean? This stuff is really happening. And I've had people come and tell me, like, we've had the same experience in the nighttime together. So just saying.
I don't know why that just made me think of this conversation I was having with my neighbor. I'm not going to mention his name just because.
Okay.
Your
neighbor.
He may not like it, but he's a good friend of mine. More than a good friend, like my brother. And one of the things he said is we were talking about dreams that we have. And he had some weird dreams as well. And he said, but in these dreams, like people were the opposite of how they were in this lifetime. Like if somebody was a bitch, they were nice in the dream.
Okay.
And he said, he goes, hear me out. and he started talking in the language that I think. So it was really kind of cool. And he said, what if the dreams are literally us connecting to other aspects of that person's soul in other dimensions or realms?
See, that's what I think.
And so I was like, you're more than my best friend. And I was so happy that he said it. And I know how awake he is and how aware he is. So, and it was a really cool conversation. And I want you to think about that. And I had an experience years ago. My mom transitioned in 2012, the year that my book came out. And probably almost a year later, I had a dream about us, and we were driving all around Tampa, and we were going to all of our favorite spots. We were going to Mystical Sense, and we went and had breakfast, and we had ice cream, and we went to the mall, and we did all these fun things. It was like we actually spent a day together. And then I woke up. And so that was, if you really want to get technical, we actually were spending a day together. It just wasn't here in this particular dimension, and my soul needed that. And so it's just one of those things where, yes, like Hannah said, you can go there with them just like that, because you can connect to their soul. The spiritual realm is literally like right there. It's just that they are vibrating at a frequency faster than us, and so we can't see them. And so if that being said, there's also different realms and dimensions and stuff like that. And that's the interesting part, is that there is I'm going to get this a little bit off, but it's 400 billion bits of information that are going on at any second. So in the room I'm sitting in right now, there's 400 billion bits of information happening. But my physical mind is only capable of processing 2,000. That means that all these things that are going on around us, my mom could be standing there, your family could be standing there. Crowd. It's this whole crowd of people working through us. And it's really conscious, it's different beings and consciousness. And with that being said, even though we're talking about cells of consciousness, my mother who's in spirit is still my mother.
That's right.
And she's a cell that has ascended into a new level of possibility. And incidentally, there's different realms of her happening. And there is parts of me that are literally in that frequency with her.
I was going to say that we exist in other aspects of us. That's my belief.
You're multidimensional.
Right. And I know that we speak about stuff like that, but I don't feel like enough people are, but it's on like there's TV shows and stuff like that. I think there's a lot of information filtering through with the sci-fi things. Do you agree?
Oh yeah, well, it is so funny because we're both in this summit called Quantum Leap Your Life. And the organizer, I was like, did you watch that television show, Quantum Leap? And she's like, no, it didn't go.
Oh, I did.
and so it's just really funny because, sci-fi is really telling us a whole lot. It's only telling you a fraction though. the real information comes from hanging out with yourself for 5 minutes, the breathing and that kind of stuff. And then when you can go from 5 minutes to 10 minutes to an hour, I actually meditated, I'm using my word, for 6 hours once. And I got so relaxed that have you ever had this happen? The walls start liquefying in front of you?
I have. Sometimes
and you're like, that means that the dimensions and everything are starting to melt. And guess what? That's when, if you can get to that point, that's when you start seeing the spiritual realm, because they're three-dimensional and spiritual realm are really not there.
Because I've had that happen sometimes, even when I'm not meditating.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, where even when I walk, because I go in a meditative state, I think, when I walk, and I'll see I don't know if I'm seeing portals or something, but there'll be a section where it's like a little blurry on the side. It's just really weird sensation.
Yeah.
It doesn't look solid. It's like it's a little bit of movement.
Yeah. Yeah, it happens, and that means that's when the physical world or the spiritual world will start revealing itself, because you're standing between both worlds, as the shamans would say. Oh, I was going to tell you about this.
Oh, yes.
Oh, so this.
Yes, we can.
This is a soul portrait of my mother. And why this is so cool is, I want you to notice the blue dress and the golden hair and the cosmic eyes. So my mother transitioned on January 9th of 2012. So after that happened, everybody was the weirdest things were happening. Like, I worked for MetLife at the time, and we had an outside memorial. So the MetLife blimp flew over her picture and hovered there for like 20 minutes. And I was like, I remember, because I could hear her very plainly, and I said to myself, show off. And I heard her giggle in my head. Because what was she doing? That particular blimp had followed a friend of mine from Orlando all the way over to Tampa so that she could be a part of my mom's memorial. I had known this friend for a very long time, but I didn't know for the last 4 months she had been working with my mother at hospice. And I also didn't know that where she was coming at in Orlando was to watch her first grandbaby be born, and then to come to her colleagues' memorial. So she drives, and that blimp follows her all the way over from Orlando for where she saw her first grandbaby born. So fast forward, I get a medium that basically calls me and tells me your mom's alive, all the normal stuff that happens, normal stuff. And so, but most importantly, my friend Leah Clark calls me up, and she says, she calls me at work, and she goes, hey, do you got a second to talk? And I'm like, yeah, of course. And she says, your mom came to me, and my friend had eye surgery, and her friend Andrew was grabbing her feet, and my mother had her hands underneath her head, and she was singing to her. Wow. And she said, Lori, what are you singing me to for? She goes, well, you sing to everybody else because my friend is a singer. And she goes, but it's time for somebody to sing to you while you're getting this surgery. Well, my friend didn't really know my mom that well. She did, they had met a few times, but incidentally, my mother had another really good friend named Leah Clark as well, that they worked together, so they both had the same name. But regardless of that, so she calls me up and she says, and your mom leans in and she says, tell Jeremy it's a mermaid dress, and it's a blue mermaid dress. And you see the blue dress. All right, so interesting how this works out is why the mermaid dress was so powerful is that my mother, the day after her memorial, had stepped into my body. And so she says, this is what heaven feels like. And I lost all sensation of I was aware of my body, but I'd lost all pain, all anxiety, and I felt like I was the drop in the ocean, like a mermaid, floating through the ocean, swimming through the ocean. And then it seemed like a long time, probably lasted like a millisecond. And then I started thinking, oh my God, I gotta let Damien know. I gotta let this person know this. And I was trying to send it. And so I broke it because I started getting worried. And so,
in your head.
And in my head, yes. And so she tells me this, and I'm like, I told her, Alita, said, you don't understand. Like, she literally showed me what it feels like to swim in the ocean of spirit. And so I was like, she said, so we get done with that. Fast forward. Now keep in mind, on 11/11/11, Mom and I were meditating with two ancient crystal skulls that were like 6,000 years old. Jack Wheeler.
Yeah, I know Jack.
And he was at my house.
I know the skulls.
He was at my house with the skulls. And I just led a meditation, 11-11-11 meditation at 11:11 p.m. And so it's a little after midnight, and Mom and I are both holding the skulls. Now on 11/11/2012, I'd already gone on my book tour and everything, and I walk into my friend Teresa Kessner's art studio. Now Teresa's a very gifted psychic, very well-known psychic, especially on California psychics and stuff like that. And I walk in and I see this painting, and I'm like, holy cow, when did that looks just like what my friend described my mother is in her dream when she appeared to her before she got her surgery, and she was singing to her. She goes, I painted that probably a week after your mom died.
Wow.
And then I was like, whoa. And so the interesting enough, my friend Sylvia, and she lived in Key West, she painted a mermaid as well and sold it at Fantasy Fest at Key West. So my mom was going to all these people to reach me, and somehow somebody would reach me. So this is a year later. And so then Teresa says, well, you can have it. And so this painting is behind me in a lot of videos. And people have told me that it moves, it shifts, and everything else. And they literally, the eyes stare at them while I'm doing like live feeds.
You see it moves?
People have told me it moves.
Wow.
And so I don't say that. People watch me on video and they say, that painting behind you moves. And it's like it's looking at me.
That's cool.
And so then you wanted to ask about Mom stepping into me for healing work.
Yes, I did.
So just now talking about that story, about how she stepped into me,
Right.
I realized fast forward 2018, I had almost gotten to this point where I was like, didn't know if I wanted to do healing work anymore, and I was like, blah, 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 and I was just going through this weird phase. So I was on this cruise ship, and it was a conference called The Waves of Light, and we had gone to Cozumel and to Tulum, and I led a meditation at Tulum and all that kind of stuff. Anyways, we're sitting there, and my friend Monica, her friend Bobby needs a healing, so I reach in and I give her a healing. And I feel these hands come through my arms and I realize it's my mother. Well, didn't think too much about it, all that kind of stuff. And about an hour later, I'm in a group healing with my friend Jessica leading it. And she says, hello, little Buddha. It's time for you to get up and start actually doing some healing work. She makes me stand up.
Jessica said
Yeah,
that?
Jessica
Okay.
says that's me. So we're doing this healing work on this man, and somebody took a picture of me. And in the picture, you can see light all down my arms. And so my mother had stepped into me again. So then we're on our cruise in September, and a woman named Catherine gives me a reading. Basically, I had done some healing work on her, and she asked me if she could do something for me, and she channeled my dog.
Oh.
And what Catherine. She did, Catherine. So she brings in Max, my dog. Hi, Catherine, if you're watching. And she brings in my dog, and then brings in my dog, Molly, who was my mother's dog. And she said, there's something about the souls. They're one and the same. Your mom and her dog were one and the same, which is true because my mom had died and Molly was with me for another 2 years. And people would say, I swear to God, your mother is looking at me through those dog's eyes. But then she tells me, Mom comes through and she says, you're right, Jeremy, I do step in to you, but it's very important for you to understand that it's not me doing the healing, it's both of us. I had to transition in order to be able to do this. Well, in 2008, my mother had a profound dream where she said she saw me, the two of us working together, and then that's how we founded the group, the Lamplight Group. And so she said, it's important for you not to understand that it's not, because my mom was a very powerful healer. Well, all things leading up to this, I've been doing healings on people, and they're like, wow, you were powerful. And I never thought anything out of it because I just don't, I strongly believe, and this is what my mother taught me, as soon as I start thinking, oh, well, look at me, I'll lose it. Mm-hmm. Because that's your ego getting in the way.
The ego steps in.
And so, and that's the nature of my work now, whether I'm talking to you, doing readings or coaching or whatever, or doing table work, which I hated years ago, but I'm actually starting to like a lot more and really enjoy doing table energy work. And that's My mom used to say, "You're a healer, you're a healer," and I would listen to her. So I listen to her now in spirit. And my mother was a Mayan shaman, and so and she's been trying to tell me, "You are too a shaman," and so that's kind of the long-winded story. So
I kind of love it because every time you do go into stories, it seems what I hear is resistance. Like when she was alive,
yeah,
there's definitely resistance.
yeah,
Like you really wanted to be your own person.
yeah.
And it seems like, but yet I don't feel from your stories that she was overpowering.
No.
She let you be.
Yeah. Now people accused her of that. People in our family accused her of that. It wasn't true, and she was actually very. My mother was. So this is my mother when I was 13. You know, you have to go to school, right? Yes. I'm not going to wake you up. You're going to have to start waking yourself up. And if you're late, I'm not going to beat you up about it. But if you get in trouble with school, you will suffer the consequences. If you get bad grades, that's when I'm going to start grounding you.
So she let you make your mistakes, and let you make your own decisions,
and face the consequences. She wanted me to understand what it was to be an adult, and so she never overpowered me.
And she didn't force you to be a healer. To me, it's just like it's a natural ability that
well,
you
I
have.
mean, in spirit, she's nagging me enough, so I'm just.
But it's funny because last weekend, or not the weekend that just passed, but when we were having dinner, and you grabbed my hands, or like, I don't know if you grabbed both of my hands, one, but I was shocked at the energy coming through you. Like, he's like, feel my hands, like, because you were so like, zzz, and so yet your frequency was like off the charts, but then you grabbed my hand and I felt it shoot up my arm, and then you didn't even touch me like with my throat area, you went bleep, something like that, and I felt it. I can't even imagine what my face looked like because I felt like I was like, just like, holy cow, because we had never had that exchange before. So I was like, oh my gosh, like.
Well, and that's what Mom would teach me in life, that resistance. I didn't listen, and as in spirit, I started listening to her even more. My mother was a Qigong practitioner, so she would do things like what we were talking about, where she'd see a block and she'd be like, boop, and it would just fly out of your body, and or she would grab it like this and throw it back into the earth. And she believed that these blocks that we have to give it back to the earth, because the earth transmutes it and it brings it back into the collective whole. And so that's one thing that she started teaching me this more in spirit. And so I became less resistant with her on the other side. And she told my friend and my mentor, Virginia Drake, she goes, you take him from here. I've taught him everything I could teach him in life, and I'll work with him on the other side. And so, and it's because mom, sons don't like to listen to their mother. I always say she got stupid at 13, and about 27, she got smart again. And so, and of course I went through all the guilt. I wish I was to listen to her, blah, 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 whatever. And so, don't beat yourself up. And so it's just one of those things, and that's an emotion you went through, but regardless,
Which was very appropriate, like that's the thing.
Yeah.
And okay, remember we were talking about triggers. That's a perfect opportunity to bring that up. Like I know with my kids, because my daughter's younger, but I just said this to her the other day. I'm like, when you were little, I didn't know Jack. Now you hit like 20 and all of a sudden I'm a genius. And she's like, I always thought you were. No, she didn't.
No, she didn't.
And it's funny because it's a natural thing for me to know, like, it doesn't matter, even if something hurts your feelings with your kids or whatever loved one. But like now what I'll say to myself, it's a natural occurrence. And I think any loved relationship, right?
Yeah.
If Jeremy needs some space, but I'm like, no, we're good friends. I need you right here. You're gonna pull. It's a natural reaction for you to pull away harder.
I wouldn't answer the phone.
What was that?
I wouldn't answer the phone.
You gotta let people.
Yeah.
Let it be.
We gotta have our space.
We do, and it's not a rejection. And I think that's where the pain comes in, because the interpretation, he needs his space. Jeremy doesn't want to be my friend. Jeremy doesn't want me. You know what I mean? People take it as rejection. Change his story in your head.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I love that. Now, can you tell me some projects that you're working on?
Oh, yeah. So, Spirit Heart Cruise, definitely go check it out at spiritheartcruises.com. And I'm going to be putting out a new project that I don't fully want to disclose yet, but it's going to be really exciting, and it's going to be a membership area on my website, and I'm super stoked about that. Definitely check out my website. It's jeremymcdonald.net. And what's really kind of cool is if you sign up for the newsletter, I will it'll email you back a free downloadable 78-minute CD that is me and my teacher talking for 78 minutes about how to find abundance and peace in life. So yeah, so then Waves of Light, and then Quantum Leap Your Life. And me and this girl are going to Prescott Valley, Arizona. And then we'll both be in Denver together in April. So yeah, there's a lot of cool things coming up.
How can they see you maybe like more frequently? Don't you have a podcast?
Oh yeah, I do live feeds on my Facebook, so you can look up. I'm sure that I'm tagged in this, but if not, Jeremy E. McDonald, and you can look that up, or Jeremy E. McDonald, the Storytelling Alchemist. You can look up the like page and look at that. And I do a podcast, not as frequent as I used to do. I'm getting ready to start doing it on a weekly basis. However, right now it hasn't been weekly, and I think Jamie would like me to do it weekly.
You know what? Like we're both like, there's so much to do, and it's very exciting, right? I'm sure we both love everything that we're involved with, but everything takes time, right?
Absolutely.
But I just wanted, like, I thought tonight was a great discussion, but what I've noticed from going to see him speak in different areas, I love how he mixes spirituality and science. This man's mind, I'm amazed at how he's able to pull things, like from books that he's read, experiences, like it's almost like you're an encyclopedia of knowledge. And you have a beautiful way of bringing that story together. It really, because it's not like wow. It's just so alive when you speak. You're welcome. I just started going out when you started public. Hey, Daniela, come hear me. You were the first person that I actually left the house for, like, you know, if it wasn't work. I was like, I guess you didn't know that, but you got me just, and I'm like, and I listened to you and I'm like, oh my God. Like, it was just phenomenal. I really, really loved listening to you. So if you ever get a chance, whether to listen to him over like the internet and stuff like that, but if you ever get a chance to physically go and hear this man speak, you'll love it.
Oh, I forgot. Like, how did I forget? How can I forget? I'm flying out Friday to Cincinnati, Ohio, and I'm speaking at Victory of Light in Cincinnati, Ohio. So Lisa Williams is the headliner, and but I'm on at 11 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, so come and see me there. And so I love meeting new people. Besides Victory of Light's like the best expo ever. Our friend Victor Peruta puts it on. It's pretty amazing. So yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
I had so much fun tonight. Thank you so much for allowing me to spend time with you. And we should do like a show like with the car. You know how do you do that?
Yeah, we can definitely do it on a regular basis. We should do that.
So thank you very much for joining us this evening. Take care.
Thanks.